Hi all, welcome to our next session on cloud deployment models. So, in cloud computing paradigm, we have various flavors of models which we can follow to store our data, to enhance the security features, and to increase or scale up the availability feature of cloud computing. So, there are three basic models available. One is the private model. The other one is the public model, and there's one more which is the hybrid model, which is a combination of your private as well as your public. So apart from all these three, we even have few more models available in the market, like your community model. So we'll see those in detail. So before moving into the models of cloud, let's understand few key words that's related to private cloud or public cloud or hybrid cloud. First is your on-premise application or on-premise organization, off-premise applications or off-premise organizations. Say I am in an organization as an admin. I have the responsibility of managing all the data that my organization is generating in the server that is dedicated to me. As an employee in the organization is totally responsible for installing the data centers or the servers, installing the appropriate licensed software for me to manage all the information that I store in the server, and there would be a number of employees like me who would be working in the organization. So every person's need has to be appropriately analyzed and provisioned. So to make this possible, a minimum of lakhs to crores would be required to run your organization. But whatever the data that you process, whatever the data that you work with in your organization is all limited to your in-campus, which is inside your campus. It doesn't goes beyond your organization's limit or boundary. You call that type of organization as on-premise organization or on-prem. On the other hand, on contrary, there are other type of enterprises and organizations who outsource these data to a third party provider or service provider who will be totally taking care of all the servers, the data, etc., etc. We call those type of organization as off-prem organization. So your on-prem is more of like private and off-prem is more of like public. The infrastructure is totally within the physical location of the organization, which we just discussed, as well as the data centers. We have total control on all the components that we organize inside the enterprise. The hardware, the licenses, the software that we install, the updates, everything is taken care by the organization itself. So what happens? Obviously, there would be more investment required, which means there is an increase in the upfront capital expense because every year there are updates happening in the market. We have to update the servers, we have to update the software, we have to update all the licenses, we have to purchase all the licenses. So it's obviously gonna be having high upfront. So these organizations usually have their strict regulations when it comes to their data. So the data is appropriately secured. and it's not to the public use. It's not common for the public to view the data. So obviously we require a dedicated employee or a staff to maintain the updates, to maintain the servers, to run the servers, to check the logs, to check the networks without to check to run the regular checkups so that the network is appropriately running. So all these are the challenges when we maintain an on-premise organization. On the other hand, your off-premise organization is hosted by the cloud service providers who we already know: Amazon AWS, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud, which means the organization can give the responsibility of taking care of the data and their entire infrastructure to these service providers, which is outside their boundary. So we can increase and decrease the number of servers as and when we require, and we pay only for what we use. So obviously we don't have to invest hefty amount on purchasing software, purchasing the license, purchasing hardware, servers, which is in trending with the market value. So maintenance is obviously going to be it's not going to be a burden for us, because the service providers are totally going to take care of the infrastructure, maintenance of the servers, etc., including the security and upgrades that keeps happening. So there is going to be continuous integration and development, which is going to be seamless without any interference from the service provider's end. We can access it from anywhere, anytime, with just the internet connectivity appropriately managed. So there is again a combination of these two, which is going to be having on-prem as well as off-prem in it. That's what we call as the hybrid cloud. So our on-prem is the private cloud and off-prem is the public cloud. So there are organizations, so in the current market, which are moving more towards a hybrid type of cloud, where they can use the off-prem data infrastructure or data centers to have their sensitive data, which is private to themselves, and off-prem data, which could be, so obviously it's not going to be compromised, which they feel like it would be better to host it to a public service infrastructure maintenance, so they can offload it to their off-prem cloud server. So we have various cloud solutions for this, as we just discussed: public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud. So public cloud is again a third-party provider. So it's open to the public, and you have to pay for the services that you're opting, and you only pay for the services that you're opting. It's metered on daily basis. So if you're running your services all day in a week, then you would be metered depending on the usage. We can scale up and scale down the resources based on our needs. It totally depends on the organization's decision. And private cloud, on the other hand, is totally dedicated to a single organization. We need to have a dedicated data center, and the company is going to be totally relying on the hardware that is in the data center or the server room to maintain the data. And it is going to be having strict regulation for hosting the data. Hybrid is going to be a combination of both of these, where your applications, data, and every task that you run is going to be maintained on-prem as well as off-prem. It's going to be private as well as it's going to be hosted in the public cloud. So here we have the pictorial representation of how the private, public, and hybrid cloud works. So it's more of like supporting the remote workers. It can give you, it can have you, it can provide with you the features of control panel. You can have your own office or infrastructure setup and can have his own set of mobile users. But remember, it's limited to an organization. No third party or people from outside can access any of your data from your organization. It's highly secured. On the other hand, we have public cloud, which is open to the public, which means we have a common service provider. Obviously, they are going to be having their security features enhanced. They even have dedicated servers to run their security features, like AWS uses their AWS key management system or KMS system for encrypting, decrypting the data. But still, it's a public service provider, which means any user at any given point of time globally can create their instances. They can host their virtual machines. So businesses can benefit a lot when moving to cloud that is on public infrastructure. Security is being provided seamlessly by these service providers, and we even have a remote site which is dedicatedly given to us, and we can manage it at our own location, from our own location. So we have a combination of both of these, which is the hybrid cloud, where I can go ahead with deciding to store some sensitive data. If I decide I don't want to put all my data to the public cloud, I can have few of my organization's highly secured or confidential data on my premise, and few of the information or data to be hosted off the premise. So that's about public, private, and the hybrid cloud. So with this, I am going to stop the session. Let me continue the session with few more features to discuss about the use cases that comes under private, public, and hybrid cloud. And see you all in next session. Thank you.